Lowe's knows that no matter your paint project, saving is at the top of your list. That's why when you shop today, you can buy one, get one free select Valspar and HGTV Home by Sherwin-Williams one-coat coverage interior paints via rebate. Shop these deals in-store or online today at Lowe's. We help, you save. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. See sales associate for details. Offer valid 8/21 through 9/3.
So I wanted, before we get started, to let everyone know that I have a new podcast out, and it's called Meditations. If you like the Meditations segment of this current podcast, you'll like the Meditations podcast. It's nothing but 20 minutes of meditative sounds. And now, on with the podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caesar's Palace for 12 rounds of boxing. In the red corner, from Los Angeles, California, wearing the red trunks with the gold trim, weighing in at 125 pounds, the lightweight champion of the world, Danny Little Red Lopez. Well, Bill, our winners get a home theater receiver. That's right. Experience the full potential of high-definition video with this 72-channel digital home theater receiver from Yamaha. But wait, that's not all. They also get a 5.1-channel surround sound system from Mirage. With 5 palm-sized speakers and a compact subwoofer cube, the MX 5.1 brings you huge immersive sound with Mirage's omnipolar technology. All from the Spiegel catalog, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. And they're taking closer order as down the stretch they come. Mr. Hot Stuff has 3 lengths to make up with chocolate candy last. On the rail, take the points behind that gallant son with chocolate candy gaining on the outside. In the lead is Pioneer of the Nile being tackled by chocolate candy. They're neck and neck as they come to the wire. And Pioneer of the Nile holds off chocolate candy and wins the Santa Anita Derby. And now, on your feet, time to greet holder of 14 NBA titles, your home team, your Los Angeles Lakers. Number 3 at 6'8", 5th year out of UCLA, playing forward, Trevor Ariza. Starting at center, number 17 at 7 feet, 4th year out of St. Andrews High School, Andrew Bynum. And at guard, number 24, 6'6", 13th season out of Loyal Marion High School, Kobe Bryant.
I tell you, there's wise guys. When I checked in a hotel, I asked the bellhop to handle my bag. He started to feel up my wife. I said to him, hey, buddy, who told you could play around my wife? He said, everybody. I tell my wife I can never relax, I told her our kid is spoiled. She told me a lot of kids smell that way. My wife, she don't go for me either. I'm not a good-looking guy. Well, Halloween, I open the front door, kids give me candy. Are you kidding? I know I'm ugly. My dog found out we look alike. He killed himself. I was an ugly kid, too. My old man took me to the zoo. The guy at the gate thanked him for returning me. Well, when I was a kid, nobody was nice. I was 6 years old. I found out there's no such thing as Alpo baby food. And nobody was nice. My mother never breastfed me. She told me she liked me as a friend. I had her rough. Well, I told my old man I'm sick and tired of running around in circles. He got mad. He nailed down my other foot. I mean, that's the story of my life. No respect. I don't get no respect at all. Are you kidding?
Good morning. It's Wednesday, Apollo Wednesday, August the 20th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have Varney and Company, motivation, meditation, and Apollo. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you, Maria. Then David Assman.
About Congress and when they get back. Varney and Company picks it up. David Asman in for Stu this morning.
Maria,
David,
great show. Thank you very much for that. Good morning, everyone. I'm David Asman in for Stuart Varney. In a major step towards peace, the White House announcing that Russian President Vladimir Putin has agreed to a meeting with Ukraine's President Zelensky. A trilateral summit may follow, but only, quote, if necessary. Markets are under pressure this morning. The Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures all pointing lower. Not a lot, but could be a bad omen for what happens during the day. The 10-year Treasury, let's take a look at the yield there. It's down just a tick to 4.3. The 2-year Treasury's yield is basically flat at 3.74. And Bitcoin now down to 113,000, although it's up a little bit, about $54 right now. On the show today, the PGA Tour releasing its 2026 schedule, and guess what? The return to the Trump National Doral for the Miami Championship is the sports world dumping their anti-Trump hysteria. We'll get into that with Clay Travis and others. And another far-left candidate pushing for office, this time in Maine. An oyster farmer with views echoing socialist Zoran Mamdani's launching a bid to unseat Republican U.S. Senator Susan Collins. Will some blue states go all the way towards embracing socialism? And we are live in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, as central bankers from all around the world kicking off a 3-day summit. Will Powell do what his central bank allies have done and lower rates? A big show, as always. Wednesday, August 20th, 2025.
So there you go. David Assman, a little bit of Maria. Nonprofit news now. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the political corner.
What we're seeing in Ukraine is we're seeing a country that is, and everybody knows this now, there's no more hiding this. So why is Ukraine so important? Well, it's a hub for human trafficking. It's a hub specifically for child trafficking. It's a hub for narcotics trafficking. It's a hub for weapons trafficking. We know about our biolabs because Victoria Nuland said we had them there. I mean, we've always known that, but that's stated now publicly. And there's a lot of money just flowing into this country, and you say to yourself, where is this money going? And is it money laundering? Money laundering. You name it. Just this week, and it may not have come up on your screen, but I know you pay attention a lot. I mean, there's a couple of people. I think one of them is like somebody in the Ministry of Defense there, and it might be the Minister of Defense, or maybe somebody in his orbit. They're buying these gigantic homes for millions and millions of dollars, and you say to yourself, how is this the case?
And that was the Patriotic Short, or excuse me, it was the political corner. Back in a minute. Thank you, and now the Patriotic Short.
The U.S. Navy and the PLA Navy face off near Scarborough Shoal. The United States deployed the guided missile destroyer USS Higgins, an Air Lee Burke-class warship, together with the littoral combat ship Cincinnati, an Independence-class vessel, to conduct a freedom of navigation operation near Scarborough Shoal. The operation came just days after a collision between two Chinese ships during a confrontation with the Philippine Coast Guard. China claims it drove away the USS Higgins, accusing it of entering Chinese claimed waters without permission and calling it a violation of sovereignty. The PLA Southern Theater Command says a Type 054, a frigate with hull number 568, was mobilized to monitor, warn, and expel the U.S. vessel. The U.S. Navy flatly denies this version of events. Lieutenant Sarah Merrill of the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet says China's statement is false, insisting the Higgins continued its mission without interference. This marks the first U.S. Navy operation near Scarborough Shoal since 2019, a clear signal amid rising tensions in the South China Sea. The shoal lies in a strategic maritime corridor handling over $4.5 trillion in global trade every year. Is this a calculated show of force, or the opening move in a new round of naval brinkmanship?
And that was the Patriotic Short. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, motivation.
None of us ever get through this life without heartache, without turmoil.
As you're going towards your dream, as you're going towards your goal, there are going to be so many people that come up against you, so many obstacles, so many trials, so many tribulations. Life is going to hit you with a certain level of opposition, and it's going to test your will, and it's going to test your heart, and life is going to say to you, you said you wanted it, now let's see how bad you really want it. The reason why you stop and start, and you stop and you start, and you stop and you start, is because the goal is not meaningful enough. There's something about the goal that if you quit, it's not going to hurt nobody. If you quit, it's not going to change nothing. If you quit, it's not that deep.
You gotta know why you're out here, because you're gonna get your butt kicked. But you gotta know why you're there, because your reasons, when life drops you to your knees, your reasons will help you get back up. Why you here, Les? Because I want to make Mama proud of me. Why you here, Les? You still want this dream? We kicking your butt. I know, but I promise I'm gonna get this house for her. I promise my kids I'm gonna do for them. I'm gonna give them a better life. I want to leave them a legacy. I'm not gonna give up. Go back, fool, go back. No, I'm not going back. And you gotta do like that. You'll cry, you'll feel lonely, and I encourage you to pray. You gotta pray. You hear me? You gotta pray.
There's some things in life that all you got to do is outlast. You just got to learn the secret of how can I survive these next couple rounds. No matter what you might be going through, don't quit. No matter what you're going through, don't quit. The secret is in not giving up. No matter how impossible your situation may seem, stay on course. I guarantee you cannot pass it if you quit. I guarantee you're going to fail, but you don't know what's going to happen if you keep going.
You will win if you don't quit. You got to have stamina. You got to have staying power. You got to know your vitamin.
Logical, practical thinking says you can't do it today. But if you want to produce unreasonable results in your life, you've got to be an unreasonable person. You've got to be an uncommon person. And then once we hit that wall, we don't quit. We don't give up. We push a switch called will, and we start using our willpower. Yes, we tired. Yes, we're hungry. Yes, the mind is saying give up. Yes, it's saying quit. But we cannot quit because we realize we have not reached the goal yet. This is not what I dreamed about. This is not what I said I was going to do. This is what I talked about. This is not what it looks like. I got to squeeze. If you're going to be successful in this game, you got to have a dog within you. You got to know it's a dog fight, and you got to go get that fight. Life ain't going to be easy. Ain't nobody going to hand you nothing. You're not ready to give 120 in every single area. If you're ready to quit, you're ready to give up, you're ready to give in. You're ready to tell me what's not working, who doing this, what's wrong. If you're not ready to get up every day and start all over again like nothing happened yesterday, why me, God? Why not her? We both adults. Because I can count on you. This is what you do. You are built for this. You just think you don't go through nothing, you go straight to the top? Patiently endure. Your problem is you don't know how to patiently endure. You want the reward that comes with being patient, but you ain't patient. Delay don't mean deny. Delay just means you're going to have to wait a minute. When the unsuccessful are in delay, they get nervous, they get worried, they give up, they quit, they stop, they surrender because they don't see what they think they should see. But when the successful are in delay, we work while we wait. We grind in between time. We don't give up. We don't surrender. We don't quit. We see differently. Our perspective is different. And because our perspective is different, our outcomes are different. Our rewards are different. You must have patience and engage in consistent action. You got to keep moving. Don't stop. Don't stop running towards your dream. I outlasted the pain. I kept telling myself, one day you'll be a homeowner. I told myself that this might be your current circumstances, but this will not be how the story ends. All you have to do is to survive today. Survive today. There's some things in life you don't need no degree for, you don't need no money for, you don't need no support for. There's some things in life you just gonna get through when you tell yourself, I'm gonna get through this. You just gotta outlast some stuff. And I just made up in my mind, look, I might not have been stronger, I might not have been smarter, I might not have been brighter, but I made up in my mind, I'm gonna get through this.
I don't see failure. I think it's my first, second, third attempt.
Struggle is a part of it. After pain is the reward. So get through it, because the pain separates the weak from the strong.
When life knocks your butt down, I need you to get back up, and I need you to go heavy on it. When you feel pain, I need you to get back up, and I need you to go heavy on it. When you feel uncertainty, I need you to get back up, and I need you to go heavy on it. If you ain't cut right, when it hits you, everything that you work for and everything you've accomplished, you can lose it in one moment.
And for some of you, you stop dreaming. You dream for a week and you stop because things around you don't look good. You dream for a month, and when you get hit in the mouth, you quit and you give up. You dream for a while, and when people tell you crazy, and when people tell you stupid, and when people tell you can never get done, you stop dreaming and you go back to knowledge. And I dare you to use your imagination. I dare you when you're broke to use your imagination. I dare you when you're rich to use your imagination. I dare you under every single circumstance. Keep dreaming. Keep looking at your dream. Keep focusing on your dream. Keep going after the dream because that's where true success is.
And that's motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now from the YouTube account Zenyeet Meditation, a little meditation.
Welcome to this 5-minute meditation, a sacred space to connect with the energy of angel number 0909. The number 0909 carries a divine message, the end of one cycle and the beginning of a new one. It is a call for spiritual awakening, forgiveness, and renewal. As we journey together, allow yourself to feel supported by the universe and guided by the angels. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and gently place your hands on your heart. Take a deep breath in. With each inhale, imagine you are receiving divine light. With each exhale, release all heaviness, all doubts, all burdens. Breathe in peace. Breathe out, release. Breathe in light. Breathe out the past. Now, gently bring your awareness to the sacred number 0909. Visualize it glowing before you, radiant, golden, full of divine energy. This number whispers, the past is complete. A new chapter is ready to unfold. Feel the meaning in your heart. The old has served its purpose. The new is ready to rise. Your soul is awakening to its higher path. Repeat softly within, I release the old and welcome the new. I trust the divine plan of my soul. I am open to spiritual awakening. Let these affirmations align your spirit with the vibration of 0909. Now imagine a brilliant light, white, golden, pure, descending gently from the heavens. This is the energy of the angels embracing you with love and guidance. Feel this light entering through the crown of your head, flowing into your heart, expanding through every cell of your body. You are safe. You are loved. You are guided. The energy of 0909 awakens your soul, reminding you of your strength, your purpose, your infinite connection to the divine. Take one final deep breath. Feel gratitude for the angels, for the universe, and for yourself. Thank the number 0909 for its wisdom and its light. Gently return to the present moment. Open your eyes when you are ready, carrying this peace, renewal, and spiritual awakening with you. Thank you for being here.
And that was from Zenyi Meditation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now the Daily Stoic.
We were made for each other. You'll more quickly find an earthly thing kept from the earth than you will a person cut off from other human beings. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 9.9.3.
And that was the Daily Stoic. And now His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron.
The kingdom of God is at hand, and listen to his language. Repent and believe in the gospel. The word there behind repent in Greek is metanoiete. Literally, meta means beyond in Greek, and then noia is derived from nous, which means mind. What he's saying literally is, go beyond the mind you have. Think about it for a second. Fellow sinners, listen to me. What's the mind that we have? It's the mind of the world. What matters is wealth and power and the opinion of others and being a success and all of this. That's the mind that the world has bequeathed to us. It's a fallen mind. It's a compromised mind. Jesus is saying here, get beyond that. Get beyond that. And may, as Paul would later put it, the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus. What were your...
And that was His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron. And now the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Quote, it is the educational establishment that's created this national disaster. It is philosophy that has created the educational establishment. The anti-rational philosophic trend of the past 200 years has run its course and reached its climax. To oppose it will require a philosophical revolution, or rather, a rebirth of philosophy. Unquote. And that was Ayn Rand from the chapter, The Comprachicos, from the book Return of the Primitive. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Machiavelli.
Have you ever seen someone walk into a room and suddenly everything changes? Nobody says a word, but the tension shifts. People glance over, straighten up, voices lower. That person didn't smile, didn't speak, didn't try to impress anyone. But somehow, they owned the room. No jokes, no loud energy, no fake charm. Just presence, power, and maybe even a little fear. What if I told you that this kind of silent authority is not a gift, it's a strategy? That you can learn how to command respect, even fear, without saying a single word? Most people think you need to be loud to get attention, to be dominant to earn respect. But the real game, it's played in silence. It's about what you don't say. It's in your eyes, your posture, your stillness. While everyone else is trying to be liked, to be heard, to be seen, the one who doesn't chase any of that becomes the one everyone watches. Because silence, when done right, is louder than noise. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He knew that power isn't always about action. Sometimes it's about waiting, watching, holding back, letting others expose themselves while you stay calm, unreadable. Because the less people know about you, the more they guess. And when they guess, they usually assume the worst or the strongest. That's the trick. You let their own minds do the work for you. That's how fear is planted. That's how respect is earned. Not through force, through mystery. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been around someone who barely talked, but when they did, everyone shut up and listened? That person didn't need to yell. They didn't try to prove anything. But when they looked at you, you felt it. That's the power of silence. It's not weakness, it's control. And in a world where everyone's desperate to be noticed, the one who doesn't try becomes the one nobody forgets. This is what I call silent dominance. You don't dominate by talking more. You dominate by saying less and meaning more. You move slower. You react less. You never rush to fill the silence. Because you know the silence is your weapon. It makes people uncomfortable. Makes them question what you're thinking, what you're planning. And that unknown, it makes them cautious, curious, even afraid. And here's the truth. People respect what they can't fully figure out. They fear what they can't predict. And when you walk into a space with calm eyes, controlled movements, and zero need to prove yourself, you send a message without speaking. You're not here to perform. You're here because you choose to be. And that attitude, that energy, it shakes people. Think about it. How many people do you know who can stay silent during conflict? How many can sit with tension and not flinch? That's strength. Most can't handle silence because silence reveals. It reveals insecurity. It reveals fear. It reveals who's really in control. So when you master it, when you become comfortable in stillness, you flip the script. You make others uncomfortable while staying perfectly calm. And that calm, that's power. There's something ancient about this, something primal. In nature, the most dangerous animals are often the quietest. The lion doesn't roar when it's hunting. It stalks, it watches, it waits. Noise is for the weak, the insecure, the ones who need attention. Silence is for those who already have it. That's what Machiavelli understood, that the greatest power often lies not in the words you speak, but in the ones you hold back. So how do you apply this in real life? You start by observing. Watch how people move, how they talk, how they try to dominate with noise, and then do the opposite. Don't rush to speak. Don't rush to react. Make them come to you. Make them wait. Let the silence stretch. Let them feel it. Because in that space, you gain control. You shift the dynamic. They're now reacting to you. The dynamic. They're now reacting to you. Eye contact, posture, timing. These are your tools. When someone challenges you, don't rush to defend. Pause. Let them sit in their own words. When someone asks a question, take a beat before answering. When you do speak, speak slow, speak clear, say just enough, not too much. Make every word count. That's how you train your presence. That's how you make people hang on your silence as much as your speech. And here's the kicker. This isn't about pretending to be something you're not. It's about becoming who you are without apology. Most people speak because they want approval. But once you stop chasing that, you unlock a whole new level of freedom. You become unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. People don't mess with what they don't understand. Now let's talk about fear. Not the loud, aggressive kind. The quiet kind. The kind that creeps into someone's mind when they realize they can't read you. When they realize they don't know how you'll react. That uncertainty makes people tread carefully, respectfully. Even if they don't like you, they won't cross you. Because they don't know what you're capable of. And that unknown, that's your advantage. You're not trying to scare people. You're showing them that you're not easily shaken, that you don't play by the same rules, that you don't need noise to prove strength. Your silence says, I'm watching, I'm thinking, and when I move, but you'll feel it. That's the energy of silent power. It's calm, it's slow, it's deliberate, and it's terrifying to the insecure. People will start treating you differently. They'll second-guess themselves around you. They'll feel the need to explain more, to impress more. That's when you know it's working. That's when you know you've shifted from being reactive to being in control, from follower to presence. And here's the most important part. Don't break character, ever. Even when you're tired. Even when people push. Stay centered. Stay still. The moment you start explaining yourself, apologizing for your silence or trying to ease the tension, you lose the power. Let them squirm. Let them wonder. That's the art of influence without effort. Machiavelli once said it's better to be feared than loved, if you can't be both. But why not aim for something even deeper? Be respected. Be unshakable. Be the kind of person whose silence speaks louder than anyone's screams. That kind of presence. It can't be faked. It's earned. It's trained. It's chosen. And once you have it, you don't need to ask for respect. You become the reason people give it. And you know what really unsettles people when you adopt this silent posture? It's not just the calm. It's not just the stillness. It's that they can't read you. And in a world obsessed with labels, categories, and quick judgments, being unreadable is almost dangerous. They don't know if you're friend or threat. They don't know if you're judging or just observing. That uncertainty, it makes them cautious. And cautious people treat you with respect, whether they admit it or not. You start to notice it. People second-guessing themselves around you. They stumble over their words, laugh nervously, try to fill the silence you leave behind. Not because you're intimidating them directly, but because their own insecurity echoes louder in your presence. Your silence becomes a mirror. It reflects them back to themselves. And most people don't like what they see in that reflection. So instead of trying to decode you, they respect you. They fear disrupting the balance you create just by existing. Let's talk about eye contact, one of the most powerful tools in silent influence. The trick isn't to stare like you're trying to dominate someone. That's aggressive. That shows neediness. The real move: hold eye contact just long enough to make them feel seen, truly seen. Then break it casually, like it was nothing. That moment of connection, followed by your indifference, hits different. It makes them question if they impressed you, if they matter to you. And that question lingers. Think about what that does to a person. In a world where everyone's begging for validation, you become the one who gives none. You're not cold, you're selective, you don't chase, you assess. That's a whole different energy. It says, I'm not here to prove myself. I'm here to observe and decide. That shift alone changes how people see you. From someone trying to fit in to someone who chooses who they let in. And this doesn't mean being passive or emotionless. You're still human. You still feel. But your feelings don't leak out for everyone to read. That's the difference. You don't overshare. You don't explain your every move. You don't broadcast your thoughts. You keep your emotional cards close to your chest. And that privacy, that control, it turns your silence into presence. Because when you do choose to speak, people listen. Your words carry weight because they're rare. They come from a place of thought, not impulse. You've trained yourself not to react to everything. And in doing that, you force the world to adjust to your rhythm instead of being pulled into theirs. That's the foundation of real respect, not demanding it, earning it through discipline. You'll notice something else too. The louder people start shrinking around you, not because you belittle them, but because their volume can't compete with your gravity. They sense your focus, your intention, and suddenly their noise feels empty, desperate. And suddenly their noise feels empty, desperate. They start watching what they say around you. They start checking their own energy. That's what presence does. It calibrates the room without effort. And here's the secret most people miss. Silence isn't emptiness. It's full of choice. Every pause, every unspoken thought, every quiet gesture, it all says something. It says, I don't need to fill space to exist. That's power. Because the moment you stop chasing reactions and start choosing your moments, you stop playing their game. You start running your own. It's about more than just silence. It's about stillness. Mental stillness, emotional stillness, that ability to sit with tension and not flinch, to hear criticism and not rush to defend, to be challenged and not instantly strike back. That restraint? That's strength. It tells people you're not here to win petty arguments. You're playing a longer game, one they don't even realize they're part of yet. And that's what Machiavelli meant when he talked about influence. It wasn't about loud commands or public displays. It was about control, of self, of timing, of perception. You create a version of yourself that others can't ignore because it doesn't beg to be seen. It simply is. That kind of influence outlasts charm. It outlasts charisma because it's rooted in something deeper, self-mastery. Let's get practical. In conversations, practice holding back. Let others speak first. Don't rush to tell your story. Let them reveal theirs. People love to talk about themselves, and when you give them that space, they start opening up. And the more they talk, the more they expose. You gather information while giving away nothing, and eventually they'll realize you've said almost nothing, but know everything. That's when they realize you're not just listening, you're learning. This isn't manipulation, it's awareness. It's using your silence to pay attention in a way most people can't. And when the moment comes to speak, you do it with impact. Not volume, not length, just impact. The right words at the right time with the right tone. That's what leaves an impression. That's what gets remembered. Watch how the most respected people move. They don't hurry. They don't fidget. Their movements are calm, efficient, precise. That's not luck, that's training. They've learned to control not just what they say, but how they exist in space. And you can too. Start by slowing down. Breathe deeper. Move with intention. Don't rush to react. Every time you pause before speaking, you're practicing power. It's also about boundaries. Silent power means you don't let just anyone in. You're friendly, sure, but selective. People can feel that. They know they have to earn your trust. And when they do, it means something. Because you don't give it out easily. That alone makes people respect you more. We value what's rare. And in a world full of oversharing, over-talking, and over-explaining, your silence becomes rare, and therefore valuable. There's another layer to this. Emotional discipline. Most people walk around emotionally naked. Every little thing gets a reaction, a frown, a rant, a sigh. But when you're silent and centered, people can't read you. That frustrates them. But it also fascinates them. You become a mystery, and mystery is magnetic. It pulls people in, not because you asked, but because they want to understand you. They want to know what makes you tick, why you're so calm, why you don't crumble under pressure like everyone else. And that curiosity turns into attention. That attention turns into influence, not because you demanded it, but because you became something they couldn't ignore. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You need to be sure. Sure of yourself. Sure of your values. Sure of your direction. When that certainty lives in your silence, people notice. They may not understand it. They may even mock it, but they'll feel it, and they'll remember it, and deep down, they'll respect it. Silent power is about playing the long game. You're not chasing quick wins or validation. You're building something stronger, presence, reputation, command. And once you have that, you don't need to prove anything. You walk into a room and your energy speaks before you do. And here's the beautiful irony. Once you master silent influence, you'll find you need to say even less. Because people will start adjusting to you automatically. They'll seek your approval. They'll interpret your smallest gestures as signs. A nod becomes a compliment. A pause becomes a challenge. A glance becomes a decision. That's how powerful silence becomes when it's backed by presence. It's not about being distant or arrogant. It's about being intentional. Everything you do means something. And when you move with that kind of awareness, people can't help but feel it. They don't know why they're drawn to you, they just are. Because in a world full of noise, you've become the signal, the steady pulse in the chaos, the calm in the storm. And when conflict hits, you don't panic. You don't explode. You stay grounded, you listen. You choose your moment, and when you speak, it lands, it cuts through the nonsense. It settles the room. That's the power of silent influence. It doesn't beg. It doesn't fight. It just is. And that just is becomes unshakable. And by now you've probably started to realize something crucial. Silent power isn't about pretending to be something you're not. It's about peeling away everything that was never you to begin with. The need to please. The fear of being misunderstood. The compulsion to always speak, always explain, always fill the air with noise just to feel seen. All of that, it fades. And in that silence, you finally hear yourself. You finally become undeniable. Because when you master yourself, you don't have to master others. They naturally shift in your direction. Not because you forced them, but because you became something rare. Someone who doesn't need attention to have it. Someone who doesn't need validation to feel worthy. Someone who doesn't need to dominate to be respected. That's what Machiavelli hinted at in his writings. Power doesn't come from controlling people. It comes from controlling perception. And perception is shaped more by mystery than by exposure. When people can't figure you out, they don't dismiss you. They elevate you. Their minds fill in the blanks. And when your silence makes them wonder what you're thinking, how much you know, what you might do, you become a living question mark. And nothing captures attention more than a question without an answer. But don't confuse this with arrogance or detachment. Silent power doesn't mean pushing people away. It means letting them come to you on your terms. It's about choosing who gets access, who gets answers, who gets the real you. And when you make yourself less available, less readable, less predictable, you become more powerful. Because in that restraint, You hold the key to something people rarely encounter these days: depth. And here's the truth. People crave depth. They're drowning in shallow interactions, fake smiles, and over-explained emotions. When you show up with stillness, with focus, with intention, you don't just stand out. You become the one thing that feels real in a world of performance. And that realness, that's influence. The kind that can't be faked. The kind that changes rooms, minds, and sometimes lives. But it all starts with one simple choice: to stop trying so hard, to stop forcing connection, to stop proving your worth, and instead, to start embodying your presence, to let your silence speak, your energy lead, and your confidence exist without needing permission. That's the essence of silent dominance, and it's available to anyone willing to do the inner work. So walk into that room with calm, not fear. Sit in silence with...
And that was Machiavelli. And I wanted to say that all of this advice is great if you are the prince, if you have a position of power and authority. Otherwise, it's useless. Think about it. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Back in a minute. Thank you. So the American Thinker article, it's called "In Ukraine, the Buts Win in the End." And it's by J.B. Shirk, and I like it. It says a lot of the things I'm thinking. So, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. You may continue fighting martial law President Zelensky, but the American people won't be following you into World War III. No matter how agreeable the first half of a sentence might sound, the buts change everything on a dime. President Trump has been clear that he wants the Russia-Ukraine war to end, but he says Zelensky must choose to end the conflict. When the war began, 73% of Ukrainians wanted to fight Russia until Ukraine secured victory, but 69% now want the war to end as soon as possible through negotiations. Perhaps that is why Z-Man agreed to meet President Trump in D.C. It was widely rumored that the U.S. officials encouraged the battle dress-wearing comedian to don a real suit for the occasion, but the holdover president wore a military-style jacket in all black. The guy who plays piano with his penis still looks out of his element at the White House, but he does dress like someone attending his own funeral. With the titular head of the Ukrainian government back at the White House, surrounded by an entourage of European honchos eager to butt in, we will finally discover whether some kind of peace between Russia and Ukraine is feasible or tenable. To be sure, there are many powerful people in the United States and across Europe who would prefer to keep Ukraine a battlefield for years to come. Why? As a man holding on to the presidency 18 months beyond his elected term, Zelensky might finally bring peace to his war-torn country, but he will likely be voted out of office once the exigencies of martial law disappear. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen may publicly express their desire for lasting European peace, but the Russian boogeyman has long been the perfect scapegoat and distraction for European societies self-immolating from mass immigration, censorship, and climate change communism. The World Economic Forum, the United Nations, and other august organizations ostensibly dedicated to global welfare might applaud an end to bloodshed, but all of their depopulation enthusiasts will no doubt regret the loss of a conflict zone, chalking up more deaths than births. BlackRock, JP Morgan, and other international investment houses will be happy to make money from lucrative rebuilding projects in Ukraine, but they will lament that the war did not topple President Putin and open up Russian lands to their profit-seeking conquest. Weapons manufacturers will be glad to have so much demand from American and European militaries, desperate to restock munitions after years of supplying Ukraine, but their boards of directors will be busy finding new places around the globe to slaughter in the cutthroat business of war. So there may well be happy faces and cheers over the next few days and weeks when it comes to the prospect of Ukrainian peace, but there will be plenty of villains scowling behind the scenes, all hoping that the tentative peace breaks and the carnage resumes. Those European and Chinese power players who have long seen war between the Russian Federation and the United States as an opportunity to diminish both countries simultaneously will say all the right things in upbeat social media postings praising compromise. But they will regret that the America-last Biden administration is no longer around to stumble recklessly into nuclear war. Spy agencies across the West may pause their color revolution activities long enough to install a new Ukrainian puppet into the presidency, but they will continue their hybrid warfare operations in former Warsaw Pact countries. London and New York City bankers will perhaps allow Russian citizens to access their overseas assets once again, but Western central banks will pursue monetary policies that cause enough domestic turmoil in target countries to return the West to a state of war in the near future. In sound bites, everyone loves peace, but in the world of big business, war means profits. War is big business, but it is also a convenient political distraction. During the destructive interregnum of the Biden installation, Democrats laundered trillions of dollars in Green New Deal spending through the Build Back Better Act, cynically labeled the Inflation Reduction Act to appeal to idiotic members of the press. While that legislation stole from taxpayers and accomplished nothing for the American people, it put enormous sums of money into the bank accounts of Democrat-run NGOs structured as social justice and environmental justice front groups. Combined with Democrats' ongoing war against inexpensive hydrocarbon energies, the inflation-triggering money printing of that harmful legislative handout to establishment insiders and crony capitalists doubled grocery prices in the United States. How did Democrats explain away their disastrous handling of the economy to struggling American families? They simply blamed Russia, as they have for the last decade, and called the spike in the cost of living Putin's price hike. Sure, the cost of food, fuel, and basic necessities rose precipitously during the bungling Biden administration, but Russia, Russia, Russia. Americans were even encouraged to view their growing household bills as a patriotic form of suffering worth enduring in America's undeclared alliance with Ukraine against the Russian Federation. First, Democrats blamed Hillary's 2016 election loss on imaginary Russian bots and contrived Russian collusion. Then they blamed the massive spike in prices on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Europe is playing this same cynical game against its citizens. Instead of admitting that green energy totalitarianism is destroying the continent's industrial competitiveness and household wealth, mendacious politicians blame the war in Ukraine for their crumbling economies. Of course, the rise in energy costs across Europe might also have something to do with the ineffective sanctions against Russian energy companies that merely divert Russian products to China and the greater global south. The convenient sabotage of the Nord Stream pipelines and Ukraine's military attacks on key pipelines transporting oil and natural gas from Russia to households in Hungary, Slovakia, and other parts of Europe. The more expensive ordinary goods become, the louder bureaucrats insist that the problem is not green energy-induced inflation, but rather Russia's war in Ukraine. For European politicians, the Russia-Ukraine war supplies many ancillary benefits. It provides already indebted nations an excuse to borrow more money for defense spending. It creates a common enemy for the European Commission to exploit as a life-and-death reason for member states to relinquish national sovereignty. It creates a distraction from the rising frequency of social conflicts related to rampant illegal immigration. It provides a pretext for canceling inconvenient election results in Romania and designating popular political parties as a national security threat. It allows the prevailing establishment to entrench its control over the European bureaucracy. As Democrats and American socialists in Europe are fond of whispering, never let a crisis go to waste. Turning Russia into an irredeemable bugaboo and Ukraine into some saintly bastion of democracy worthy of every European sacrifice is how we have gotten to the point when all of Europe's problems are brushed aside. Serious people may be warning about a looming civil war in the United Kingdom, but Ukraine's territorial integrity is all that matters. Churches in France may be burning down for unexplained reasons, but Russians are the real threat. The German economy may be fundamentally unsound, but military spending will create jobs. Americans and Europeans should want the killing in Ukraine to end, but there are just so many politicians and bankers who find that outcome disappointing. In all likelihood, this war would have continued for many more years, but thankfully, the American people elected President Trump. And that was an article in the American Thinker by J.B. Shirk called In Ukraine, the Buts Win in the End. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Apollo.
Chapter 20. The flight director may take any necessary action. At the vortex of the Mocher, third row center, sat the flight director, flight. It is difficult to think of another role in the modern era that is the counterpart of flight director for an Apollo lunar mission. Many other jobs carry with them some measure of the same unrivaled power. The captain of a Navy ship, for example. But even that comparison is inapt, for the captain of a modern naval vessel exercises his power under the orders of others who are in constant radio communication with him. The Apollo flight director experienced no such direction during the course of a flight. By explicit statement in the mission rules, the flight director's authority was sweeping. The flight director may, after analysis of the flight, choose to take any necessary action required for the successful completion of the mission. Theoretically, either flight's immediate boss, the director of flight operations, or the mission director could intervene. And when there was time, a flight director would, as a matter of courtesy, tell the senior executives in the back row what was happening. But none of them, not even Chris Kraft, ever changed a flight director's decision, for all of them knew that they could not possibly read the technical situation during the course of a flight as well as he. Along with the power of command came breathtaking exposure in the event of error. The lunar missions were, after all, landmarks not just in the history of the United States, but, without hyperbole, in the history of Homo sapiens. A flight director prepared for the manned Apollo flights in the knowledge that his decisions during the course of his shifts in the Mocher could put him at the center of the world's attention. And yet the rewards for success and the penalties for failure were not symmetrical. With success, the flight director remained anonymous. On the other hand, if a crew were ever lost that could have been saved by the flight control team, a flight director had to be aware that he would be testifying before congressional committees and explaining his actions to boards of investigation, in addition to trying to live with himself. Formally or informally, he would be marked forever as the man who had failed to save the astronauts. "It is the finest job in the spaceflight business," said Gene Kranz of the flight director's post. But it was not one for just anybody. 1. Even before Mercury had ended, Chris Kraft had become the model of the flight director that all the others would try to copy throughout Gemini and Apollo. He underplayed his work, advertising his theory that the flight director was like the conductor of an orchestra. The conductor can't play all the instruments. He may not even be able to play any one of them, he would say. But he knows when the first violin should be playing, and he knows when the trumpets should be loud or soft, and when the drummer should be drumming. He mixes all this up, and out comes music. That's what we do here. Around the Mocher, it was known as the piccolo theory. The conductor doesn't have to know how to play the piccolo. All this was nonsense, according to his controllers. When Kraft was talking to one of his controllers and began the sentence by saying, "I don't understand your discipline that well, but," the controller would cringe, waiting for the zinger that was about to come. The fact was, in their opinion, that Kraft knew exactly how to play the piccolo. He could play every instrument in the orchestra if he had to. One Fido remembered that Kraft would come down to the trench during his off shift and pull up a chair and sit there and chat about something that had come up on the preceding shift, or about something he knew was coming up on the next, revealing in the process an intimidating technical knowledge of what the Fido had done or was about to do. Or when he was at flight's console up on the third row and not much was happening, he'd sit there and bring up the displays that were showing on your console. He could do that with every position, just to keep his hand in. "Kraft is incredible," said another controller. "Mind-boggling. Here was a man running a whole directorate. Every mission was different, had different ground rules, different flight rules. Each one had different things that were set up that way because of different constraints that went with them. And we'd be in a meeting discussing them before we deployed out to a site, and one of the crewmen would say something, and Kraft would say, 'No, we're not going to do that. Here's what we're going to do, and here's why we're going to do it.' I'd sit there and say to myself, where the hell did he ever find time to be able to do that? Where did he find time to understand all that?" The other flight directors followed suit, making self-deprecating jokes about their own ignorance of the controller's specialties, even as they unobtrusively burrowed into the nuances of every console in the room. Kraft also set the tone for one of the most striking features of flight operations: unquestioning trust, not of superiors by subordinates, but the other way around. In the flight control business, where the consequences of mistakes could be irretrievable, this level of trust was sometimes an awesome thing to receive. Kranz remembered his first shift as flight on Gemini 4. "I was looking for a handover, some general sense of direction, because I was picking up the shift from Kraft. And he left no handover. He didn't brief me. He just said, 'You're in charge,' and walked out." During Apollo 5, which was an unmanned mission testing out the lunar module's descent engine, an early engine cutoff triggered a set of convoluted contingency plans. Kranz, the flight director, was coping, but he was being stretched to the limit. Kraft walked over and stood beside Kranz's console for a few moments. Finally, he said to Kranz, "I don't know what in the hell you're doing. I don't know why in the hell you're doing it, but I hope to hell you pull it off." And he strolled away while Kranz did. The trust that Kraft confided in his flight directors was to characterize the relationship of flight directors to controllers. Thus, during the launch of Apollo 12, after lightning had struck the spacecraft, Flight Director Jerry Griffin, a former GNC, was absolutely convinced that his GNC ought to call for a certain circuit breaker to be pulled. It was a crucial situation, and Griffin wanted the GNC to make the call. He hinted, he nudged, he prodded, but he would not, as he could have, unilaterally order the circuit breaker to be pulled. Finally, his GNC decided that was the thing to do, and things worked out fine. Give a lot, expect a lot. That was the credo Kraft left for the other flight directors. Chris Kraft was the kind of guy who would leave you alone and let you do your job, Fido Jerry Bostic said. But without him ever saying anything, you knew you'd better not screw up. You'd better get it right. Don't try to fake it. because he didn't give people a second chance. The key was not so much being perfect. The nature of the controller's job meant that sometimes he was going to make a mistake. The key was being smart enough to recognize the mistake, correct it, and then never repeat it. To err is human, but to do so more than once is contrary to Flight Operations Directorate policy, was another of Kraft's sayings. And above all else, when you found out you had made a mistake, you had to admit it immediately. The flight director's looking at a lot of data, and sometimes the information to be inferred from the data is not clear, an ecom once explained. Your data are one thing, information is another. So if you were trying to tell Kraft something that he might use to make a critical decision, like re-enter the spacecraft, you had to give him very tailored, specific information. One day I saw a guy actually give him some bad data. He just tried to bullshit his way around a problem, and Kraft knew. Kraft went down and put his hand on the back of this guy's neck and told him to leave the control center. That was it for that guy.
And that was Apollo by Charles Murray and Catherine Bly Cox. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there and reminding you that you are not neutral and that the government has no rights.